Alright people, so we are going to do a video really quickly for you all on drying some fruits, particularly fall fruits. We have jujubes, we have figs, we have bananas, unfortunately not homegrown, and then we also have persimmons that are also not homegrown. But we do have some persimmons right here that we did grow ourselves, and these are the astringent types of persimmons. These are the persimmons that you really have to let them get soft. In fact, softer than a tomato. This is pretty close right here. And then they'll lose that astringency. And when they do that, they're incredible. In fact, this one here is also that type. This is called Miss Kim. This one tastes a lot like a marshmallow. These other guys here are American persimmons. They taste a lot like dates. In fact, I actually have some dates right here. Basically, I just bought myself or grew a crap ton of fruit that I'm just preserving for the wintertime. I mean, I say the wintertime, but all this fruit is probably going to be gone in its dehydrated state. It's going to be gone in no time. You know, this is really like the stuff that I love to snack on. You know, I really love, by the way, donuts. And shout out to these people in the Bristol Amish market. They have some of the best donuts here, guys. I'm not kidding. These French crullers are incredibly airy, flaky. Same thing with this cakey donut here. It's like a cinnamon sugar donut that they have. I bought 2 of these. I'm going to a Halloween party later tonight. And I bought these in preparation for the party just to bring. But I've already snacked on some of them. Basically, though, what I'm trying to say is that all this stuff, even though it may look like a lot, it's going to be gone soon. And I find that the bananas are like probably one of the best things to throw in the dehydrator. Out of like the produce that you normally will get, at least the more common produce, like if you have pears, they're pretty decent in the dehydrator. You got some, you know, some oranges and things like that. And we got peppers. I think peppers do really well. These are some really not spicy jalapenos. It's very strange, but I find that out of all the fruits that you can like kind of get at the store and have access to, these bananas are the best. Bananas are like, I think, the king. You get like these really nice banana chips, and you can get banana chips at the store, but they are nowhere near as good as these. And you can get this dehydrator, by the way, guys. It's really cheap. It's a Nesco. The top of it's down here on the floor waiting, and it just heats the dehydrator area in here to like 115 degrees. I guess you could use an oven, but it really circulates the air. There's a lot of airflow in here. I got these nice sleeves separately to keep the trays clean, because they're hard to clean and you can't really fit them in the dishwasher in most situations. I guess some other fruits are pretty good at dehydrating. It's probably the tomato. And I should dehydrate more of my tomatoes. I probably should have done that this year. I think I said I was going to do that this year, but I never did. Instead, there's a lot of tomatoes outside on the side of the house or in the back here that, in all honesty, just dropped to the ground and went to waste. So I don't know. You know, I don't know if I'll do that again this year, or next year, I should say, and try to grow more tomatoes. It's just a lot to get out there and pick every single thing, you know, to go out there every day almost and pick strawberries and to pick raspberries and then also to pick cherry tomatoes. It's like a lot. It's a lot of food. It's a lot of work. Yeah, it pays off when you can have all this fruit, you dehydrate it, and it lasts all wintertime. These jujubes, by the way, most of them will naturally dry on the tree, and you don't have to do this. But I do find it's helpful, especially because some of these, when they are starting to dehydrate, you can see this one sort of is, they can kind of ferment sometimes. They don't have the right sugar, the right Brix content to them. You know, sometimes it might be a bit rainy outside. We just did a video on these jujubes about me harvesting them and talking about them. So I just find it's really important. And there's also like 2 different types of jujubes. There's some that I think are meant to be dried, in all honesty. There's some that really don't taste that great at this state right here. I think this is actually the jujube I bit into on the video. And then I took a bite of this. This is kind of like a crisp apple in its current state. But when it dries up, it changes texture, it changes the flavor. It's a very different fruit. And I think some of them are just meant to be dried and they have a better flavor that way. And then others, actually, you can eat them fresh, like my honey jar. And they're a really awesome apple. They have, like, honestly, they're like apples dipped in honey. So, yeah, that's all we're doing. I think the figs, you kind of just can split them into halves or fourths. What you kind of want to do with all this is that you really want to have everything have the same surface area. Hopefully none of this is really touching, although it sort of is. You really want to have everything the same size if you can help it. You know, like the same width, thickness here on the slices of the persimmon, the same thickness of the banana slices. That way when you put all this stuff in the dehydrator, it comes out wonderful and evenly. Otherwise, you're gonna have to come in here and check this thing, and you should check it anyway every couple of hours just to see if, you know, it's done. But I also want to talk to you guys a little bit about these figs right here. I've actually been drying figs not in the dehydrator. This is Nerucciola de Elba here. And it dries naturally on the tree. It has great drying potential. It dries on the tree here almost every time, even with rain. And it's such an incredible fig that even when I take it inside and let it sit on a plate, and I had a plate over here with figs on it, I just put it in the sink, but even them just sitting on the counter in a relatively dry environment, they actually start to dry. They will start to dry naturally on your counter. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't dry of the greatest quality. You know, sometimes they'll, unfortunately, they're going to, without a doubt, they're going to start molding some of them. And, you know, that's not ideal. You don't want to see mold. So what I recommend is actually put them in the fridge. They put them on a plate in your fridge, and you'll be able to very easily dry your persimmons. I've dried, or not your persimmons, your figs. I've dried so many figs this year because I've had such an excess, and I've just been letting them hang out in the fridge. And if you let them hang out in the fridge for like, I don't know, about 5 days, they're almost completely dried. And in fact, this one here it's been about 5 days since I picked it, and it is completely dried. And this is ready to be stored, right? This is ready to go. So I can eat it in the wintertime or in the next 2 weeks. So that's, I think, what I want to show you guys. And oh, one last thing about the persimmon here that I'm holding is that this is a Fuyu Persimmon. And what I'd really recommend is, if you can find them, get yourself some Hychia persimmons. I think they do better drying. I haven't really personally dried the Fuyu types, which is what I'm holding right now. These are not astringent persimmons, and to be honest with you, I don't know how well these are going to dry. I imagine it's going to be fine, because in all honesty, this is like the best. This is the second best dried fruit that I enjoy. First is the date, which, by the way, is so good because it's very creamy. These are Medjool Dates that I wanted to show you guys. These Medjool Dates are so moist. They're not a fully dried date. They haven't been pitted. They still have their pits. If you buy a date without the pit, you're making a mistake. If you buy a date that is fully dried, you're also making a mistake. You want them somewhat moist in here. They have such a high sugar content. Even if they're a little moist, it doesn't seem to really matter. They will still be okay and hold up well in your cabinet, as an example. You know, same thing with these persimmons. I don't want to be drying these 100% fully to take out every ounce of water out of this stuff. And the same thing with the figs. They taste better like this. And this is kind of the advantage you can get. Instead of buying dried fruit, you can dry your own fruit and get the right consistency that you want. And I'm telling you, the date is the best dried fruit by far. Extremely sweet, amazing date flavor. You can almost say it's like figginess or dried fig flavor. You know, like a fig Newton or a raisin flavor. They're really, really incredible. Lots of fiber. But the persimmon, guys, is number 2. And I'm going to come back at you guys, I think, maybe in a separate video. We'll do it at the end of this one. I'll add it in. I'll edit it in. But the persimmon's number 2 behind the date. I think the date has a commanding lead, but out of all the dried fruits I've ever had, the persimmon is really, really close. And as I was saying, it's better to have probably a Haichia. You don't want the Fuyus, I would imagine. I think the Haichias are just bigger. They get you bigger slices. I also think slicing them like this, you know, these little slices here is the best way to do it. If you were to, you know, cut them into cubes or cut them into fourths or even dry them whole, I don't think they're as good that way. I really do think what I am going to try to do this year is dry some of these whole, and I may just let them, I'm not entirely sure, but I guess they can kind of just hang out on the counter. I may string them up, kind of like people do with peppers, and just let these guys dry whole like this, and they'll really crystallize. That sugar really crystallize. It'll really get a better flavor to it. But I'm telling you, when you get them in slices like this, they're like eating a really awesome fruit leather. And unfortunately, you can tell the big difference here, by the way, between a more ripe persimmon and something that was picked a bit early. And it really is quite a shame. I don't know why these people do this kind of thing, guys, but if we had these persimmons from our own tree, which we will, and I hope we're going to this year. I thought we were going to get like 200 persimmons this year. We only got somewhere around, in fact, I should go check the tree because some of them might be ripe, but we got somewhere around like 10. And that's just, for me, for having such an awesome dried fruit as the persimmon, it's just not enough. I would much rather have, you know, like, you know, 4 or 5 persimmon trees and have them produce tons of fruit, and then have myself dried persimmons all wintertime. You know, I think that's the best. Although eating them like this, when they're gooey like this, the astringent types, I rank this as the best. Then I probably would rank the dried persimmons number 2, and then I would rank the crisp, fresh persimmon Fuyu types as number 3. So I actually prefer, even if I were to buy a Fuyu, I actually prefer to get them in slices like this and put them on in the dehydrator. So that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys today in this video. It really is a nice little harvest here, and also a nice little harvest from the grocery store. All this persimmons here actually didn't cost me all that much. I think they're like $1.30-ish a pound here, which is pretty nice. But again, they're not the greatest persimmons. They're not ripe. They're not even fully orange. I mean, look at the difference in color between these guys. So you got to grow them yourself. I mean, even a Fuyu that you grow yourself is going to be so much better. It may actually beat out the dried persimmons that I have here. But I don't know. I haven't had a really good Fuyu type persimmon that was actually, you know, tree ripened to perfection. Like this one's sort of orange, but oh, actually I have. And when I went to Israel, yeah. So the persimmons in Israel that were the Fuyu types, they're actually quite good. But I still think that these dried persimmons are that great. And what a weird looking fruit. Like, doesn't that look almost not real to you? It's kind of crazy. It's like an orange, it's like a animated orange slice. All right, anyway, guys, get yourself some dried fruit this year. Get yourself a dehydrator. I really think this is like the way to live. Try it out. I really do recommend it. And we'll come back to you guys hopefully maybe at the end of this. I haven't decided, or we'll do a different video on the results of all this. So stay tuned for that. Talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.